Hello, everyone. We continue our session on women on tech, and I'm very excited that our guests today are Amy Peck and Alfredo Coppola, both representatives of U.S. Market Access Center. The U.S. Market Access Center is the longest standing high-tech business incubator in Silicon Valley for foreign companies seeking to successfully enter Silicon Valley and the greater U.S. markets. Amy Peck is a founder of Endeavor VR, and she has big experience in tech fields. And Alfredo Coppola is a CEO at the U.S. Market Access Center. And the topic of today's session is the very exciting accelerator and opportunity for the Georgian women. USAID this year is launches first rapid growth program for women-led startups in Georgia. Hi, Abby. Hi, Alfredo. I'm very glad that you found time for us. I'm very excited to have this discussion with us. And could you tell us a little about this program, which is an amazing opportunity for Georgian women startups?
Excellent.
Yes.
Alfredo, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nana. It's a real pleasure to address everybody. Nice to meet you. I had the pleasure of being in Tbilisi 4 times, and every time gets better and better. I was just there 3 weeks ago, and it was so good to engage with the community. The startup community is really maturing quickly. So we're so excited to be co-sponsors and co-hosts of the Georgian Women in Tech program, which starts on February 1st. This is a wonderful opportunity for any woman-led founder who would like to take their business to the next level. We have packed this program with so many amazing elements. It starts with a 2-week boot camp where you get all the skills training to learn how to think big and to take your company to the global scale. We have some amazing women VCs from Silicon Valley, some women corporate executives from Silicon Valley that will be your mentors and instructors. We have included 4 different pitch events with investors and corporate investors, all in Silicon Valley. Those are distributed through the 6-month program. We also have included the ability for each startup to be matched with an industry expert that's operating in your industry area. Okay, so if you're focused on ag tech or you're focused on blockchain, you will have an expert from Silicon Valley to work with you for 6 months. And what do they do with you during this period? They guide you as you're growing, okay? They help you to adjust and adapt to the market and help you compete on a global scale. But the best parts of it is the quality of the mentors and the supporters that are involved in this program. And we're so delighted that Amy Peck, our co-chair of the program, is involved along with Gail Gannon. Amy, it's been a real treat to have you part of this program from day one when we did our pilot last year. We did our pilot in June in Palo Alto of last year. We only had 9 weeks to prepare, and I must say that in 9 weeks, we managed to get 10 women startups from 7 countries. And it was only 1 week long, but during that 1 week, we had so many activities, and we were standing by the sidelines watching all of the activities unfold. And I can tell you, after 1 week, we were so delighted by the progress. We've been monitoring the companies as they've been growing. And did you know that 4 out of 10 of them got funded? They raised more than $100 million from investors. This exceeded our expectations because most of our Silicon Valley accelerator programs, it's less than half the companies, less than a fifth of the companies get funded. So clearly we're seeing some real interesting shifts in the market. We know that the gender gap is very wide all over the world. It's especially the gap is pretty wide in Silicon Valley. And that's why we're so grateful to have people like Amy on our team to help the founders from overseas to enter global markets. So I know that's a long introduction. Amy?
It was very interesting.
Thank you, Alfredo. Thanks so much for having me today. Yes, and you know, one of the things that Alfredo just touched on is really at the core of why we are doing this. That it's, you know, this sort of gender divide is a global issue, and it's something that we are not going to address in the form of being aggressive or upset or angry. We are going to address it by building the foundation and a global community so that women can support women, men as allies can help support women. And, you know, all of the data supports that a diverse workforce and a diverse founding team, they traditionally do much better than those that are just gender specific. And so we need to take this into our hands, build this community. And what I hope to have happen is that as women come into the program, move through the program and see the success that they deserve, that they then become mentors to other women. And this is really how we change the dynamic globally. And so I am so excited to be part of this program. I've only been to Georgia 2 times, but I'm very excited to be coming back in the new year, and I'm thrilled to be part of this program.
Excellent.
That is very interesting introduction for this program. And while I'll follow up, before I'll follow up with additional questions, then there is so I'll just remind our listeners that we have live on Facebook, so they can leave their questions in the comment sections, and we all will answer these questions, whoever it will be addressed to. Alfredo, if you want, do you want to share the screen? I can.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
If you want to share, you can share it now, or
I mean, how much time do we have?
We have until 9 p.m., so 50 more minutes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think for the benefits of the audience, I'm happy to sort of walk through the highlights of the program. When we designed the program, we didn't just sort of duplicate what we typically do with all our other startups. We had to take into consideration that we are working in a virtual world, you know, and we are in close touch with our Silicon Valley investor community and our Silicon Valley corporate community. And of course, during the months of March and April, everybody was in shock, but we were really delighted to see how quickly Silicon Valley bounced back. You know, beginning in May, we saw that all the activities pretty much adapted to the online format. So we're actually really happy that you know, business is continuing to move forward, and investments are still being made, and corporate partnerships are still being made. So that was one hurdle that we needed to overcome. But more importantly, we took the time to interview many women founders from around the world, and particularly in Georgia, to find out what it is that they really needed and what they desired, what was missing for the, you know, for women founders right now, what kind of opportunities are missing. Because we know there are a lot of conferences, online conferences, or a lot of events that are happening to support women entrepreneurs, but there was really lacking something that was specifically focused on rapid growth. And that's why we designed something that was 6 months in length. From looking at our historical data as a startup accelerator, we've noticed that the length of the accelerator the length of time of the accelerator program was directly related to the number of success stories that we were able to generate. In fact, 70% of the greatest success stories among our 1,252 startups that have participated in our programs were made by programs that were longer than 3 months. So that's why we came up with the 6-month period. In addition, our research showed that women entrepreneurs wanted to be part of a community, of an alumni network that would last far beyond the 6-month period. So we have built in this alumni network where they can not only share information among each other, all the founders together from all over their different parts of the world, but also with the community of mentors and investors and corporate executives that they're going to be meeting. So we've incorporated these 6 components into the program. If you look at the top left, we're going to have 6 keynote presentations and panel discussions with very famous women-led corporate executives and VCs talking on very popular topics. And Amy, of course, you're going to be leading a lot of those talks. We have 6 months of support and coaching by what we call industry Sherpas. As I mentioned earlier, if you have an entrepreneur that's focused on blockchain or an entrepreneur that's focused on ag tech, you're going to be matched with an expert from Silicon Valley that operates in that sector. We're going to we've built in the powerful network of alumni startups for the 6-month program beyond the 6 months for up to 2 years. We've included 4 investor pitch events with not just venture capitalists, but also angel investors and corporate investors from Silicon Valley. And the whole program starts with a 2-week boot camp, and this will be all delivered during the evenings in Georgia time, obviously early mornings in Silicon Valley. And what we've also built in is at least 10 meetings with potential customers during the entire 6-month period. So there's a lot of activity to keep the founders engaged during the process. Let me just zip here. There you are, Amy. You're also we're going to be featuring, maybe you can elaborate here on the bi-monthly podcast that you're going to be hosting.
Yeah, so we are doing a series of interviews. They take 2 paths. So every month, we're going to interview 2 to 3 women leaders, and they can be entrepreneurs, women who have built their own companies, or women who have attained a high level in sort of corporate culture. But basically, to really share what it takes to be a woman in business, and to be very honest about what were some of the challenges, what things went well, what are some of the best practices, what have they learned along the way. And then the second path is to interview. We're going to have every month, we're going to have a startup spotlight, and that will feature 3 founders, and we'll talk about, they're going to be in the thick of it. So they're going to talk about, their companies, where they've gotten, some of the challenges they're finding. And so it's to show really the 2 sides of the path. It's women who have really blazed a trail, and women who are coming up and building their own successful companies. And I think by sharing these stories, we can deliver not only this kind of educational podcast and a source for women to turn to for some answers to some of their own questions, but really inspire other women to let them know, you can do this. Like, we can all work together and achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve.
That's awesome. And it is amazing opportunity for Georgian startuppers. Actually, in the previous session, we had one successful Georgian startupper who had this mentorship opportunity with 500 startups in Georgia. She's working in fintech. She's a founder of Quick Cash AI. And we also had our professor in biochemistry. And it was very interesting. We know that in biology and biochemistry, there is almost no gender gap. And in Georgia, the women at the universities in this direction, even there are more women in this direction than men. But in the same time, she mentioned that there is very scarce, even in the world, very few biotech startups. And she mentioned, comparing, like, there is knowledge, there is no gender gap in the knowledge in scientific world from where these biotech startups usually come, right? Bioengineering and biotech startups. But in the same time, there is a much smaller amount of biotech startups founded by women. And she mentioned that probably that is issue of how girls are raised, that girls are they have less courage to start something. They try to, choose like safe profession. So they're afraid of making mistakes, like make risks. So what would you say about that? Because you have so much experience working in tech and having this educational podcast and working with startups all around the world and also in Georgia now. So what would you say about that?
You know, Nana, I'm glad you brought that up, because that really is at the core of what some of the challenges are. And we're doing it in a lot of ways unintentionally. The way that we are raising young women from a very early age is we are sending these very small messages that, you know, you need help doing this, or, you know, women aren't supposed to be strong, or they're not supposed to be this way, or they're not supposed to be that way. And, you know, by the time they get into their teens and then their early 20s and young women, and they're deciding what they want to do for their careers, I think there's a statistic, and I don't know exactly the numbers, but it shows kind of the difference in the way that men and women think about moving forward. And so the statistic is along the lines where if a gentleman reads a job application, and there are 10 requirements that the company is looking for, if he has any of them, he's willing to apply and put himself out there. Whereas if a woman, you know, only has even 5 or 6, or maybe even has 7 of the 10 qualifications, she won't apply because she feels like she needs to have 10. And that's one of the things we need to change, because especially in the way that the workforce in general is changing and the way entrepreneurship is changing, you know, there's no pure roadmap. We can give everybody the tools to succeed, but anyone, male or female, can start a company and have success. It's just about mindset, and mindset is a big piece of it. So, you know, the next stage of what we're going to do, and, you know, this is going to take years, and it's going to take a global effort, but I believe it's possible, is that I think we really need to change the way we think about educating young people, and, you know, making sure that young women, as well as young men, are getting not just a STEM education, but I like to call it STEAM education, where we include the arts, we include science, we include math, and we don't have, you know, separate the genders at a young age in the school system. I think it's very, very important. I think it's a very, very important, you know, question that you raise.
Yeah, and I think men have an important role to play as well, you know, as fathers, how we raise our daughters, and how we, you know, what are the messages that we send into the market, you know, as young startups. So certainly both my co-founder and I, Chris Burry, you know, we're both white males, and we saw the gender gap very, very wide in Silicon Valley. And we are delighted to be part of the solution, you know, with all of these lovely, all of these talented contributors. So we are recruiting more and more really seasoned and experienced women VCs and women corporate executives all through Silicon Valley. This is just a sample. If you go to the website, GeorgianWomenInTech.com, please visit often. You will see how this list of contributors will be growing. We have people from like Anna Vissers from Oracle, Lauren Palmer from Google, Rachel Payne, who was a candidate at the US Congress, Olga Mack, who's a TEDx speaker, Tori Shack in Los Angeles, who has an NGO, and the list just keeps growing.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's an exciting opportunity for Georgian startups, women startups, and I hope you will choose the best of them, and they will have this opportunity to, to get to the investors and to get funding to develop their startups. You mentioned, Amy, how we are raising and what we should do, young women, and what we should do at the school level. In Georgia, we don't have many programs which are done by schools in this direction, but I think different organizations and universities like us, we're trying to help in this direction. For example, with the funding of US Embassy, we just started engineering School 101 for high school girls, where each of them will get one Autobot, which is Arduino based and with sensors, and they will learn how to they will learn basics of electronics and how to program these Autobots, and they will learn also work with drone educational drones to program the drones. And in total, we will cover like 100 high school girls will participate in this program during this year. So do you think whenever we have this gap and wherever the state does not do Ministry of Education does not offer to schools this kind of programs, universities and high-tech companies can offer something in this direction, like extracurricular activities?
Absolutely. I'm on the board of a group here in Northern California, just north of San Francisco, called XR Marin. And it's a group of educators. It's the county board of education. And then it's, large companies, large tech companies. And so all of us together work on building after school programs for the community. But there's one in particular that is for middle and high school girls that teaches them how to code in Unity and how to build different types of virtual reality experiences, for example. So there are many ways that different types of groups can come together and work together. And Alfredo actually said something that's really important. This isn't about, saying, oh, well, it's this person's responsibility or that person's responsibility. It's really all of us. We're not looking at, men as the enemy here. It's really about having the conversation be broader with all of us together and having, men, and especially men who are fathers. I've heard so many women say, my dad used to always tell me that I could do anything. And turns out he was right. And so, I love those kinds of stories. And it's just, I think all of us need a little bit of encouragement. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. And so the more that we can develop this community and support women, the better.
Yeah, I agree. In my case, for example, I have PhD in mathematics, so now I work in computer engineering. And in my case, it was my father. And I never ever, sorry.
It's okay, I just stopped sharing.
I never ever felt from him that my success in mathematics, because I loved mathematics from childhood, that my success in math would in any way depend on my gender. And this kind of support gave me self-assurance that I can do anything and it's not related. So I think, it's really important to show the girls support and also to talk about this future profession and why it's important, why the tech is the profession of future, right? So I also want to talk a little about that. You both have big experience in tech. I mean, you are executive, you have executive position at HTC VR, and so what was your experience? Did you have any obstacles in achieving this kind of positions in tech? And what obstacles, did you have any obstacles, and how did you overcome them, if any?
Yeah, it's been interesting because throughout my career, I have been in largely male-dominated professions. I was in the music business. I was in television, commercial and music video production. And then, I was in the financial services, which was very male dominated before I moved into tech. And one thing that was interesting is that, I'd always heard of women having challenges moving up the ladder and getting paid well. And I didn't really have a problem until I started my own company. And I wouldn't even say that it was a problem. It was a misconception. And I'll tell you a little story about the first time it happened. I was one of our very, very big clients. It's one of the largest auto manufacturers in the world. And they have a subsidiary they build forklifts as well. And so we were brought in, my company, Endeavor VR, we were brought in to help them build virtual reality training. And they were so thrilled with this training that they had built that they invited me to actually keynote at their global dealer meeting in the state of Texas here in the US. And I, gave the opening keynote, and I shared, what it was that we built and how we built it and how we were going to expand the program. And it was funny, one of the men who ran one of the largest dealerships in the country came up, and it was almost like he was going to pat me on the head, and he thought it was very cute that I knew so much. And it wasn't, he wasn't doing it, trying to diminish me in any way. He just didn't know that that's really not, and those are the types of things I'm saying, that when we're giving, women when they're young, girls, we're giving them these little messages that, it's like, isn't it great that you can do math, and isn't it sweet that you can do science? And it's like, obviously we can do these things. And so, I've seen other stories like that. And I think that we also, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, is, I chose not to take offense to it. I chose to look at it as someone who didn't understand, that those are not sort of the appropriate ways to speak to women in business. So I was very polite and I was very nice. And I said, I have been doing this for 20 years. So it's something I know very, very well. And that's why I'm good at it. And he was fine. And I think he learned something, I learned something. And I think that that's, the best approach. But there is a problem, there really is a problem. But we all have the power to change this. And I've already in my lifetime seen so many amazing women. And I can't tell you how many women I know who are just out of college, maybe between, the age of 20 and 30, who I look up to because they have really taken the reins. They're building incredible companies. They're smart, they're fearless. So we've already made enormous strides in empowering young women. We just need to do a little more.
I agree. Yeah, that was very interesting story. Actually, I see this often, and I remember. So when I lived in Missouri, I lived there for 5 years. Besides working at the lab, I was volunteering as a robotics coach for Lego competitions. Where they work on these Mindstorm robots, and they build it, and they go. There is town challenge and then district, and they go to state. So we have been to the state 3 times. And we had very hard time to attract more girls to the team. Every year, these teams were all boy teams. So we were advertising, we were talking to girls, but girls didn't want to participate in this kind of challenge. And then there was it was a small town of Rolla. It was only, university town, so only 20,000 people. And there was this local discovery center, which was established by actually 3 moms. They created the center, the center grew in front of me from scratch. And what we did, we started Saturday robotics school for girls, but we announced that there is no teaching. So this is there is no challenge, there is no teaching. So we have these robots for different ages, and these robots will be set up every Saturday for 2 hours on different tables, and each table will have its mentor, which is the student girl from coding or engineering from the local university or Missouri University of Science and Technology. And you can come in and do whatever you want, which robot you like. And if you're interested in something, the mentor will answer your questions. So we started it like that, absolutely risk-free environment. And I have pictures that at the end, I was teaching 20 girls. And when I left Roland next year, they created 2 teams in different ages, all girl teams, and they went to state. So, and I'm always keeping this in mind. And when we offer the programs, because still we have this gap, and because we have this kind of stereotypes, and the girls heard the stereotypes so many times that we need a little different approach. like to understand what's the little challenge or obstacles that for some, not for all of them, right? Some of them were as lucky as I was having parent support, but not all of them have this support, and how we can approach this problem wisely and attract more girls to create this very relaxed environment, and that's how to raise their interest in this. So do you think we can do this in the direction of startups too? Because we also lack startup founders, women startup founders in Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is possible. Actually, Alfredo, I've sort of co-opted the whole conversation. So do you want to take this one?
Yeah. I mean, I think, having been to Georgia 4 times, working in partnership with JITA on their matching grants program, it was less than 18 months ago when we saw the first batch of companies pitching and helping pitching to investors and hoping to get the 100,000 Lowry grant. And I can see the progress in less than 18 months. The number of women founders, if we look at 18 months ago, up until the last session, which was just a couple of months ago in September, it's remarkable. I think we counted 15 women-led founders in the last 2 batches. That's a huge increase from the period before. So I think if you look at Anano from Fablab, I mean, she's done a great job to be like a representative and an inspiration to other startup founders in Georgia to say, look, we can do this. We can become successful. So I think this is just going to increase.
And Nana, I love the story that you told. It was like, we kind of de-risked the program. And so that's how we were able to bring women in. And every culture is a little bit different. And so I think if we can work with universities or educators and government entities, or just anyone, moms who are passionate about this, I mean, I love that story because it really shows that we just need a little bit of encouragement. And it's almost like, just sort of, lighting the end of the grenade and then just letting it kind of go everywhere. It's remarkable if we give just a little bit of encouragement. And, I think you're right. I think that, girls as they're growing into women sometimes don't have the confidence, but it's not even just about confidence. It's about they need to be able to see that they can succeed before they'll try something. And entrepreneurship in and of itself is really a lot about flying without a net, right? It's really about having pure faith in yourself. And so just by creating an arena where women can come in and they can just build that little bit of confidence, it doesn't take long and it doesn't take much. Then we can draw a line from those kinds of programs to them coming up with the ideas and being able to say, actually, this is a problem and I can solve it with technology, and this is how I'm going to do it. And so we just, again, it's all of these efforts around the world. And then our hope with Prospera is to now start to connect these programs and to make these other women and men and these success stories available so that you can say, oh, actually, we could do that program here very easily. So, I think that is a perfect example. Actually, we should have you on the podcast to talk about that.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's very interesting that statistics shows that a lot of women just leave their profession, and we discussed this on the session. Because of the family, because they take the whole burden of taking care of the family. And if the country, like some European countries, have some programs for returning them into profession, and if the country does not have special programs, sometimes these women just, they have this gap and they have hard time to return to the profession. So what do you think in Georgia, we also see these examples, and it was very hard during pandemic because all schools and kindergartens and preschools were closed. This burden laid on women, and by statistics, like 80% of the people who quit their job or lost their job 80% were women in Georgia during this pandemic. So what we as a country can do to encourage women to return to their profession and to think about it more?
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, because I just became aware about a year ago of a company here in the US called the Mom Project. And it is addressing exactly what you're talking about. It's, you know, I did the same thing. I took, 5 years off to have my 2 children. And, it's really hard to get back into the job market. And so what they do is they specialize in jobs that can be part-time, that can be done either remotely or from home, or really just take the lifestyles of, busy, moms and parents into consideration. And they've gotten tremendous amount of traction. They've just gotten a lot of funding. And I think that if also employers can think about more creative ways to allow women to have better schedules so that they can work maybe while children are in school, when they go back, or do remote work, because there's a vast skill set that women possess, especially women who have had, corporate jobs or any kind of role, and then taken some time off. It doesn't mean that knowledge goes away. So how can we leverage that? There's also a company I work with in Los Angeles. They're called Tailspin. They're a virtual reality company, but what they're doing is it's called skills transfer. So they're taking, and it's, for anyone doing any kind of a job, but it's allowing people to share their knowledge, and then we turn it into a teaching module. And so that's another opportunity for us to think about into the future, how we can empower women to stay in the workforce.
And I think on a societal level, I think, men need to do their part in supporting their wives and mothers of their children to to take on some of those home responsibilities. I think that the COVID crisis has actually opened up those opportunities even more, because we no longer can fly and go to conferences and go into situations where there's large gatherings. So yes, sometimes it's challenging, but I think for the men out there, we need to take a step back and look at the whole homemaking dynamic and do your part to support your wife and to support the mother of your children. This is the time to make the change.
Sure. Thank you very much for these words. Yeah, I think that's like the best approach. But also I'm thinking if there will be any opportunities, we as a university, what kind of programs we can create for the women to, maybe we can have some kind of extra training, or new tech skills or something like that to help them, or career advising programs to help women to return after raising their family, the kids, then to get back to the job market.
I think that's a great idea. And I think it can be as simple as maybe a monthly meetup where women come together and they share stories, and who knows, you may even find a couple of women come together and start their own company, or find work for one another. But I think it's again, there's something about the community piece of it, and other women like you, like our incredible inspiring women that we have on the podcast, like the women who are on the board at Prospera. There's something about just knowing that someone else has achieved so much, and that just makes it the art of the possible. And I think there's such an opportunity for us to do really small things that can have great impact. So I love that idea. I'm going to be in Georgia probably February and March, assuming that we get everything a little more under control with COVID. But I'm happy to talk to you further about that and be involved.
Oh, that would be great. And maybe we can come up some kind of idea which can be like template for other universities. Actually, last year, together with UN Women and Educational Foundation, we did this project for 100 women. So 100 young women aged from 18 to 35. We offered them trainings in WordPress development, like website development, and social media marketing. And we also offered this paid internship for 40 women out of this 100. And this program had really good impact. Not only these women, and they were like, some of them were dentists, some of them had like, you know, like sewing dresses and selling them. And not only these women created these good websites for themselves and for their companies, and also for you know, for their jobs, and social media marketing, started the social media marketing for their companies, but also like a third of them, they started some kind of programs in their communities. These all were women from different regions of Georgia, not from Tbilisi, like mostly from rural regions. And they all started some kind of programs in their communities, helping other women to learn similar skills. And it was exciting to see that, because it was like 1 year long program, and to see this kind of results, it was really exciting.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, and so we will continue doing this kind of things. Of course, it always depends on the funding we can get on grants, but we'll try our best. So they're asking me to repeat what are the deadlines for this project, if you can repeat it again, please, and what are the skills, how you will choose the participants for the project.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so that we've extended the deadline to November 24th for application. Actually, I'm sorry, 1 week later to December 1st. Yes, we've extended the deadline to December 1st. We encourage, you know, women from all levels to apply. So let me explain what that means. Okay, so they could be early stage, still doing research and development in the lab at your university. What we look for, though, is some promise that your innovation could be taken on a global scale. So we do need some validation from, you know, from your professors, from your fellow scientists and your peers. Okay, so that would be at the early stage. And then we could also get applicants who are already operating a business. We need you to be at least 3 years old. I'm sorry, less than 3 years old. And, you know, not too far along. Revenue is not necessary, but we do want to see some kind of market validation in your application. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we encourage you. The application link is on georgianwomenintech.com. Okay, please spread the word, because now is the time to apply. It'll only take you about 15 minutes to send in to complete your application. Okay, and we remain available if you want to chat with us. We have the Facebook group, we have LinkedIn group. Please communicate directly to us. Don't be shy. Okay, we are here to help. And we wanted to, on that note, Nana, one more note. Wanted to thank the support from USAID and also the support from UN Women to make this program possible in Georgia. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, if you have any questions about your application, yeah, please do reach out to us on social or through the website. You know, we'd much rather have you apply. If we have questions, we can always come back to you. But it's applying, you have nothing to lose. So, so apply.
Yeah, I will encourage all our students and young researchers who might have startups to apply for this project. And we also have this, the Fablab and Zoom Out pre-accelerators that helps different young startups to develop prototypes or to pre-accelerate for different contests. So we will conduct all the startups who went through our programs, and we will spread the word about it, because I really think that this is one of the unique opportunities for Georgian women startuppers to get into this amazing acceleration program. And I think it's really important for the whole country to, not only for the startuppers. So it was really great to talk to you. We had very interesting conversation. I think we will have more opportunities to meet and maybe to collaborate in some projects, because there are emerging different opportunities, different grants and collaboration opportunities. So I'm very thankful that you joined our Global Entrepreneurship Week sessions, which will continue throughout the week. We started with Georgian women in tech. And we will also have tech talks with Georgian engineers from Silicon Valley, from Cisco and Apple. And we will have some entrepreneurship training for the high school students. And we will have training how to sell products on Amazon and Etsy from their representatives. So this will be a very exciting week. And I'm very glad that you joined the first day of this week and talked about your amazing experience and these amazing programs that you are offering to Georgian women startuppers. I just want to ask the last question. You worked with Georgian startuppers, and more or less now you know Georgian innovation ecosystem, right? What would you suggest to the whole country and to us as a university, how we can contribute to developing this ecosystem fast?
I'll start off, Fredo?
I'll take that quickly. I think what you are doing, Nana, just your last, when you described the list of upcoming events, I think what you're doing, keep doing more of that. That is the type of engagement that I think your students need. From our standpoint, our observation, I think we need to bring in more inspirational leaders to give talks, to give to give the realm of possibility to the founders. We want them to think big and think globally, and that can only happen by hearing the inspirational stories from others.
I think that's great. Yeah, and it's, again, it doesn't have to be a big program. It can be small incremental change, because the beauty of building this sort of ecosystem is that, again, there's a little bit of success, and then a woman who has been mentored by someone then becomes a mentor, and it just grows and grows and grows. And I think with all of the programs that you've described, both in Georgia and in the US, it started with just a good idea, and like, let's approach it this way, and let's help women in this way. And so I'm really excited that you're doing this week. I'm thrilled to be working on this program, and I'm really looking forward, hopefully, to being back in Tbilisi early next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Boss. Thank you, and hopefully you will have very interesting startuppers in this program, and we will see the results, and this program will continue successfully. And I really hope that we can also find a way to fund one of the participants.
That would be wonderful. We would be delighted. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.